Good day, everybody. How's it going out there? This is going to be a really quick video because I don't want to really go into too much detail about these things on YouTube. But there is a comment now I placed on Flera that I would really like to point out. And this has to sort of deal with a previous episode that we did about payment charge companies and payment processing companies and their behaviors of censorship of games and furries, of gamers and furries. So, and that concerns of that situation, and we go in over a little bit about how the internet, is blowing up their phone banks, figuratively, with words. Getting people to talk, call in, voice their concerns about the censorship and things like that. So at the time, I was thinking about things because I have a little knowledge about I would call it, the furry fandom would call the dark arts, which is finance and capital allocations. I'm pretty decent at it. It's been a hobby of mine for a long time. I watch financial YouTube a lot. I'm 40 now. I'm debt free-ish. I just got a new car, but so I have that one debt. That's it. But I'm trying to focus on paying that off so that I'm debt free once again. But I was debt free for about a few months. So I've hit that milestone, and I can hit that milestone again. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of wherewithal, but also a lot of knowledge about things that kind of go on in the background. And I wanted to sort of use that knowledge to help, the gaming and furry communities have another sort of opportunity to fight back against the corruption of these payment processors in order to try to stifle legal content that's being created in the fandom and by folks who want to make a living creating this kind of content that may be what I would call the gray market. It's like it's fictional content where the content is, if it were happening in the real world, it would certainly be illegal, but it's not. It's fictional content, not real content. And so basically the idea is that it's sort of censorship in that way, sort of like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, the characters, act despicably and it's nasty and it's awful, but you should be allowed to legally purchase that book because it is talking about those things. And same with nonfiction content or sort of mixture content of, historical lore told in, the oral tradition translated into text, such as religious books, such as the Bible and the Quran, that's filled of content that are very adult oriented because it is talking about adults who are doing things in, history that, can be very nasty, right? War and, raping and pillaging and all those kinds of things and nasty sorts of works. But, I think it's important that payment processors not get into the policing of said content. And I think many people of many walks of life can agree with that, whether they be gamers, people who are religious, people who are furries. I think we can all agree that the content should not be it shouldn't have to go through a sort of committee by a payment processor in order to do that. So in order to remind the payment processor and where they reside, the comment that I talk about goes into 4 different situations that you can do to lower the amount of power that those sort of organizations have, particularly Visa and MasterCard, who basically set themselves up to be the front runners of this sort of attack on that kind of expression. So the video, the link, the comment's going to have link to other videos that is going to be off YouTube's site, to ensure that they are retained and that, that the credit card companies don't utilize, attack back in sharing proliferating this legal information about these four different methods. Basically, as a summary, the four different methods would be, number one, how you as a consumer can reallocate your resources from Visa and MasterCard to American Express and Discover Card, who, while maybe if they become larger companies, might find themselves in a similar situation as Visa and MasterCard, if there's other powers that be at play, it will definitely show that there is a risk to sticking their neck out for whoever behind the scenes is trying to push their buttons. Number two, video. Second element would be a video that sort of discusses how credit card companies make money off of merchants and their transaction fees, and ways in which you as a consumer can push to have merchants offer more payment types if Visa and MasterCard are the only types that they offer. If they don't offer ways of paying, like obviously I think legally most institutions have to have a means of, taking cash as a form of payment. And that obviously is a way that you can avoid that entirely. But if they don't take Discover or American Express, going to places that you consume and, doing that, or moving your business elsewhere if they refuse to take the cards of your choice, things such as that. And also touching on the transaction fees, and the motivations that, and how, those transaction fees, cause in essence a sort of inflation that merchants have to deal with that is caused by the existence of usage of these credit cards. So that's what the second video goes over. The third video, is going to go over probably one of the most interesting things that I think a lot of people on the internet are not aware of, and that is how to divest investments from Visa and MasterCard. And that obviously, as I move on to videos, it's going to be, as I go through the videos, it sort of has less and less ties in. Absolutely everybody can do the whole Visa and MasterCard changeover to, Amex and things. Everybody could do that because most everybody anybody who uses credit cards can do that, and that's a lot of people. The second thing can be done by a lot of people too, because people who want to use Amex or other forms of credit cards other than those big two have a skin in the game. So it's a lot of people have that skin in the game. Video number 3 and video number 4 get into sort of more well-to-do folks who actually are invested in the markets, and also who have extra spare. And video number 4 goes over crypto, which a lot of people don't touch. So it's obviously extremely optional, but it talks about the future of crypto and the door that sort of Visa and MasterCard opened up, and how you as a person can sort of prepare to maybe utilize such tools in the future of these sort of gray markets where you're buying content that is unsavory but legal, right? So number 3 goes over, financial institutions and what are called exchange-traded funds. It goes over the concept of how you can act as an activist investor to actively divest, which is what I'm calling the term, is actively divest your money in the markets from the corporations of Visa and MasterCard to instead disperse it into the rest of the market by offering brokerage services or investment services companies such as Vanguard, BlackRock, and such, an opportunity to create ETFs that follow the market except for Visa and MasterCard. And basically how you go about doing that, a lot of technical details on how ETFs work and stuff like that, which I won't go over into here because I'm not going to repeat myself. It'll be on that video. And finally, the crypto one, which is probably the most technical and the most weird, because it's a very changing and volatile thing right now. I think focusing on the third thing as a new avenue of attack would definitely rock the socks off those processing companies and hit them where they hurt more than any words flooding into to go after, to make staff workers have to work a lot kind of a thing, because they always hire the people at the lowest bidder, and they can just throw a bunch of bodies in your way and to take your questions repeatedly, and your time is valuable too. So, you like on the phone is also wasting your time. Is like it's not wasting your time, because if that's what you're passionate about, you got to do it, but it's also like you're also losing opportunity cost by being on the phone with that person, and they know that. They know you can't be on the phone forever. You have work, you have a family to feed. You're eventually going to get tired of it, and you're going to move on, and they're going to go, ha, see, like, we survived. The thing I'm offering avoids that. It provides an actual threat to them that hiring a bunch of people isn't going to fix. In other words, it teaches you about how the market works, how your money is distributed, and how you can push for it to be divested away from those corporations. Obviously, there's risks that are involved with that, and I go over that in the video and stuff like that. And then obviously the final thing of crypto, which is basically like how it's basically a personal story, like how I kind of dabble in it. Just an XRP. I don't dabble in Bitcoin or Ethereum. My poison of choice is XRP. But I also go over like how I kind of go about that. Obviously it's extremely risky. It's extremely volatile. And there's been, obviously it's not really a currency yet. And I go over that in the video, and that's why I very much cap what I put into those kind of things. Even so much so that when it goes up, I draw back, and when it goes down, I'll jump in, but I'll keep it at a certain level, and utilizing that certain level to, ride the wave, as it were, but always keep some on hand in case in the future, people start using it as a currency to sort of deal with, making the grayish market, the adult market that, is for legal content, and, trying to keep it somewhat away from the dark market, which is like the Epstein, like trafficking, like awfulness, right? The markets that are awful, and trying to keep that kind of power away, because obviously when mainstream processors go after the gray market, it kind of pushes the gray market towards the dark market. So that's always a concern. Anyways, the comment that I have that points out that information, has it in short written form, and also links to the videos to kind of go over it a little bit, is in the description below. So thank you very much for watching. If you find this kind of content interesting, be sure to kick that subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section, and kick that like button. And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. And be sure to share it around if you like what you see, and feel free to repurpose it. Feel free to put my furry name away from it if you want to, sort of talk about what I say without having me involved in it, or presenting it better than I'm presenting it. Feel free. Like, it's information. And to me, nonfiction is more about the sharing of information so that people can make their own choices rather than taking credit for things. Anyways, have a good one, everyone.